Welcome to Detroit, home to America's first mile of concrete highway, the first below-grade freeway, and so much car infrastructure. All this infrastructure was made at a time when the automobile was seen as the epitome of progress and luxury across the country. This combined with the destruction of black wealth through the building of freeways and a general lack of understanding on how cars affected climate shaped Detroit. Speaking of climate change, did you know that transportation is 27% of the United States greenhouse gas emissions? And that of that 27%, 57% is light-duty vehicles? Those numbers are only the start of the story when uncovering the hidden weight prioritizing personally owned vehicles in the urban fabric has on our society. There are high emission costs from the cement required for car infrastructure, the increase in urban heat island effect caused by that infrastructure, non-point source pollution created from car-related particulates, coolant and oil leaks, increases in total impervious area causing waterways to experience flash flooding and reducing natural infiltration rates, increased air pollution from tire, brake, and exhaust particulates, lowering public health and disproportionately affecting people living closer to major car infrastructure like freeways, the reduction of natural areas through urban sprawl created from parking lot mandatory minimums. Oh, by the way, did you know it's estimated there are 8 parking spots for every car in America? Car ownership also disproportionately affects lower income people, as the total expense of ownership is a larger proportion of income. I have a limited time on this video, so I'm going to stop the list right there, but I could keep going. So as I've shown, the cost of car ownership extends well beyond the city and is actually a global issue. So what has Detroit done to work on this issue? Well, there's the DeQuinder Cut, a former railroad line that was spared from becoming yet another freeway when a proposed riverfront casino plan was scrapped and put somewhere else in the city. The DeQuinder Cut was opened in 2009 and it's 2 miles long and connects Eastern Market to the riverfront. But as nice as it is and as infinitely more preferable than a freeway as it is, it doesn't exactly check all boxes for a healthy street. The below-grade nature of the DeQuinder Cut limits access to the site, which removes the surrounding urban landscape and architecture from the picture and can make the space feel empty except during specifically programmed events. Let's pause real quick so we can talk about what a healthy street is. Healthy Streets is a design framework that prioritizes human health in transportation and planning. The Healthy Streets framework has 10 indicators that make a street healthy. Healthy streets need clean air. People need to feel relaxed. The street needs to be easy to cross. There has to be things to do and see on the street. People need to feel safe. People need to choose to walk, cycle, and use public transportation over cars. The streets need to not be too noisy. There have to be places for people to stop and rest. There has to be shade and shelter. And the streets need to have pedestrians from all walks of life. Now that we know what healthy street indicators are, let's talk about the practical steps we can take to make our streets healthy. Like painting streets with murals to slow down traffic or bike lanes to make cars more aware they share the road. Traffic lanes can be turned into parallel parking, and the radius of curbs can be tightened so cars have to slow down to turn and pedestrians have a shorter distance to cross the street. Bigger, more impactful changes include increasing mixed-use zoning so more people are on the streets, adding public transportation, and putting cars and pedestrians on the same level so they have to share the streets. Once this has all been done, the streets may be so vibrant and so busy that you can do the ultimate change: remove cars completely. There is one more step that must be taken early and maintained throughout this transformation for the streets to be transformed equitably. Density infill along the street must contain affordable housing with pathways to ownership, and policies must be in place to protect the generational wealth of surrounding communities. Now that we've gotten all that background information out of the way, let's look at one more case study. The Joe Louis Greenway, once completed, will be a 27.5-mile long loop, allowing residents to travel safely from McNichols to the riverfront, all without a car, and much of that trip without the interference of vehicles. Looking at the data, we can see that the Joe Louis Greenway has a high percentage of vacant land at 17.4% and a lot of industrial land at 39%. Considering the planning document for the Joe Louis Greenway is over 1,000 pages long, I'm going to leave the analysis here and just say that this project has great potential and has the possibility to revitalize large areas of Detroit. But what comes after the Joe Louis Greenway? Well, in the Joe Louis Greenway Framework document, future connections have been identified through conversations with community members and data analysis. One of the streets identified is Grand River Avenue, which extends from downtown Detroit northwest. And with 24% of parcels within a quarter-mile radius being vacant on Grand River Avenue, a dearth of single-family and business zoning that could be rezoned to mixed-use or higher density, this street is a prime candidate for a healthy street makeover. For 2.5 miles of the Grand River section, I-96 runs parallel to it. This below-grade section of freeway could be turned into a grand opportunity to reconnect neighborhoods that have been severed since the 1960s. If you think that sounds a little far-fetched, you don't have to look any farther than Boston. They did exactly this with the Rose Fitzgerald Kennedy Greenway. This would create an over 250-foot wide and 2.5-mile long linear greenway that would reconnect two long-ago severed neighborhoods. Let me introduce you to Detroit's next Healthy Street project, the Q-Line extension, G-Line. In this design, the first 2.5 miles of Grand River's 90-foot right-of-way transform from unprotected bike lanes and 5 lanes of car traffic to autonomous vehicle lanes, street trees, outdoor seating for adjacent mixed use, and plenty of space for pedestrians. Once I-96 diverges from Grand River, bike lanes will move from the adjacent linear park to the street, replacing the autonomous vehicles. Major intersections along Grand River will provide the foundation for healthy streets, as it allows people in cars to park near the car-free zones and enjoy the mixed use as well. Because of the differing densities along the street, the programming will vary. For instance, the more densely populated downtown area will have a jaywalk plaza. The less populated and more agricultural area will have a farmer stand called the drive-thru. Finally, the linear greenway, also known as the car park, has plenty of space for recreation, but also direct routes for transportation.